honestly, I've been doing this a long time. I've done over 1,200 characters. So, and I'm going to list every one of them for you right now. My process basically is if I can see a picture of the character, it helps me immensely because then I can imagine what this character sounds like in my head. Sometimes you don't get a picture, sometimes you just get a description and a script. Mm-hmm. And then you try to imagine what that's going to be like. And then sometimes you don't get either one of those, so you have to kind of rely on the director to kind of tell you what the character's about and give you the context of what's going on in the scene. So that's basically it. I'm from the school where you kind of jump in and do it. I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but particularly in anime and in games, you do not see the script before you go in the booth. So we basically have to go in there and cold read a performance, which is a special skill of its own. There's a lot of, and I've had to I direct a lot of stuff, and I've had to direct like celebrities that are in TV and film that have a really hard time with that because they have time to prepare and they see the scripts ahead of time and they show up on the set, and we don't have that luxury. You really have to just jump in and knock it out of the park. So it's a whole other skill set, let's say. So yeah. You know, and I've been doing this a long time, so it comes fairly easy to me, to be honest with you. I've just been doing it a long time, and I can look at a picture and say, oh, this guy sounds like that, you know, and you know, hopefully I'm right. Yes.
So we first saw you in 2010 at Sakura-Con with Ellen. You did a Honda and Bato shout out. We missed you. What do you consider your breakout role? Back in 2010, I always thought it was Bato. Ghost in the Shell was huge on Adult Swim.
Yeah, Bato is one of my favorite characters and will remain to be one of my favorite characters. And we're still doing Ghost in the Shell. There's a Ghost in the Shell 2045 that's on, I believe it's Netflix right now that they're showing. It's kind of a CGI version of Ghost in the Shell. It's pretty cool. And I hope we do more. There's rumors we're going to do more of that. So I hope so. I love doing him. I mean, anytime I can go back and do a character that I love like that, it's like putting on a comfortable suit that's broken in. You know, it's like an old friend. So I really enjoy that. I was here in 2013 or
2010.
2010.
Yeah.
That was the last time I was here, huh?
Yeah, I saw you at the guest reception.
I must have said something that pissed somebody off. It took them so long for them to re-invite me back. I thought it was actually 20 years, but it was 2010.
13 years ago.
So 13 years ago. Okay, well, that's not that bad, I guess. I hope they don't wait another 13 years to invite me back. Yeah, no, it's great. I love Sakura-Con and I love Seattle. We love coming here, so it's always a lot of fun. I've done a lot of characters since that time. You know, I love doing Raiden in Mortal Kombat and the Joker. Those are two of my all-time favorite characters that I love doing, and those are great characters. Of course, Joseph Joestar and Akuma in Street Fighter and Ansem in Kingdom Hearts. I don't think I was doing any of that stuff back in 2010. But there's a bunch of them, a bunch of new ones that I've been doing that are really fun characters. So I'm very, very lucky and very fortunate. I get to do things that I enjoy, and I get to work on characters I enjoy, and you know, it just keeps getting better and better. And I keep thinking I'm getting older, things are going to start slowing down. Well, it just keeps getting busier and busier, so it's not slowing down at all. You know, which I guess is a good problem to have. So. Yeah, it's been great. I've just been busier than I've ever been in my whole life, so it's a good thing. Yeah.
I might be a little ignorant here, but how did you begin voice acting?
I originally came to Los Angeles as a actor. I still am an actor. I did a lot of soaps and some television shows and a couple of films, and my wife, Ellen Stern, kind of got me into this nutty business, and she was doing a film for this company, and they had another film that they had just shot, and they weren't happy with a lot of the voices in the movie, so they wanted to replace the voices in the movie. And she said, well, can I bring my boyfriend, who was me at the time? And they said, okay. And so I went there, and the guy said, have you ever done this before? I said, oh yeah, I've done it 1,000,000 times. I never did it before in my life. And so I went in there and I did it. And when it comes to dubbing, you're replacing dialogue in a movie or TV show or a cartoon. And you have to hit the lip flaps, and there's a certain rhythm to it. So I'm also a drummer, so that came in really good handy. And I find that people that have some musical ability are really a little better at this stuff than people that don't. But yeah, I auditioned for that. I got the lead in that, and this company, whatever the company was, they really liked me, and they had me come in and do a bunch of stuff. And I did a bunch of stuff for them, and that led to Robotech, which was one of the first animes that I did, and it was on network television. So we're recording this, I'm going, who the hell's gonna watch this stuff, And it just blew up, and it became a big hit, and so from that, I never stopped working. I just kept going and going, and then I started directing, I started writing the stuff, and then I started getting into games and doing all that stuff, and then original animation and all, so it's been great. It's been, it wasn't the trajectory I thought I was going to take as an actor, to be honest with you, but it's been wonderful, and I've loved every second of it, so it turned out to be okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yes?
Do you have any horror stories from gigs that you've taken?
Any horror stories from?
From like any sort of like roles that you've taken that you really didn't agree with or enjoy?
Well, yeah, there has been a few of those. Nothing really comes to mind. There was one movie. I have a company. My wife and I have a company called Epcar Entertainment that we do a lot of this kind of work. We do a lot of live action movies. We've done a lot of Academy Award-winning films, foreign films into English. We've done a lot of anime. We've done a lot of Lupin stuff. We've done a ton of this sort of work, but we were offered this movie one time, and the movie was basically violence to women, and we just said we don't want to have anything to do with that, and we don't want to do that. So that was kind of a horror story. The movie was, I couldn't even watch. I watched like the first 5 minutes of it, and I said, we're not doing this movie. But anyway, it's always fun for me to do the characters, and I can always jump in and do the characters. The only hard part of this business to me really is the screaming. There's a lot of screaming in this stuff. And thankfully, I just went a couple days ago to the ENT doctor and had my voice checked out. He said, it looks fantastic. So I said, after 45 years of yelling my balls off, I'm glad to hear that my voice looks fantastic. So that was good. I thought, for sure to have some nodes or something in there, but it would all look great. So I was happy about that. But that's the tough part of doing this work. It's like, these Call of Duty games where you're just basically screaming for 4 hours straight. And it's really hard. Those are the hard roles, Yeah.
You played like a blend of both protagonists and antagonists in your career. Do you have a preference on what kind of characters you play?
The well-written characters. I love doing them both. I love doing, it's like Raiden and the Joker are good examples, because Raiden is such a noble character, and I love him so much because he has so much honor. And the Joker is such a despicable pile of poo that it's fun to play both of those characters. So there's that old adage about man having God and having the devil, and it's kind of like you kind of have to get in touch with those aspects of your character, you just have to kind of think about where this guy's coming from and what is his take on things. And so those characters are two very interesting characters to portray, because they're so diametrically opposed to each other, so I love them both. I love villains and heroes, and it's nice to play a hero. I do enjoy playing a hero and being the guy who saves the day. But I have played a lot of villains too. So, you had a question.
Oh yes. You worked on Robotech, you said.
Yes.
That was your first role.
Yes.
How was it working with Tony Oliver?
I love Tony. Tony is great, and I gave Tony part of Lupin. I cast him in the role. I directed the Red Jacket series, and I wanted Tony originally for the part. And it was kind of funny. The producers did not want him at all. They kept saying, "We got to replace him." And I said,
Okay.
"No, he's perfect." And I kept going back and forth with him, and they kept bringing him in. They would have him do it this way. They'd have him do it that way. He did it like 10 different ways. I said, "You just let him do what let him do his thing." I said, "He's perfect for this part." And they finally let me have my way, because I'm much bigger than them. And I'm so glad it worked out, because I can't imagine anybody else doing that part. I put that whole cast together. And the funny thing is, I was not going to play Jigen. I wanted to hire, we brought in like 200 actors to audition for that part, and the producers didn't like any of them. So one day we were just sitting around going, what are we going to do? We can't find Jigen. And the producer said, Richard, you go in the booth, you try it. So I went in and I read a few lines. They said, we found our Jigen. And at first I didn't want to, because I'm directing it. I didn't want to do, direct it and do the part. But I'm so glad it worked out that way, because he's one of my favorite characters, and I just love playing Jigen. And so Tony and I are still, to this very day, we're doing Lupin stuff right and left. It's crazy. And the people at TMS was telling me that, our cast is more popular than the original cast. So that's pretty cool. And like I say, we've been doing this a long time now, 20 some years, and we just love it. It's a crazy business. When I did the Red Jacket series, we did it, and I said, I love this series. I hope I get to do more of this. And then later the Blue Jacket series came along, and it was just total coincidence or happenstance that they called me to direct that. And I said, you do realize I directed the first series? They said, no, we didn't realize that. I said, well, I have a cast that I use. Can I bring back the cast? And so they had to check with the client. The client made us all re-audition for our roles. But thankfully, we passed the test. We all sounded like we did before, so they cast us. And now they don't want to do the show without us. So it's kind of interesting how things happen. But
That's awesome.
it's a crazy business. What can I say? Yeah.
I did some voiceover workshop class with Tony Oliver also.
I'm so sorry.
So how did you get the training and experience to become an actor, and do you have any voiceover workshop classes?
My advice to anyone who wants to do this work is just become the best actor you can be, and also read out loud every day, because, as I said before, you don't always get a chance to see the script. So if you can read out loud and just be really proficient in that skill, you can go in and sound good. If you go in and then you're like, muffing the lines and everything, they're not going to hire you. I do have a workshop every blue moon. I'll do a workshop for Strawberry Hill Music. I haven't been doing one for a while because I've just been so insanely busy, and it takes a lot of energy to do these classes. Tony does them all the time. I don't know how he does it. I would jump off a cliff, to tell you the truth. But I do them once in a while when I can, and I think people really appreciate it when I do these classes. But it's very difficult for me to do them. So you just have to keep kind of watching my. I'll promote it on my pages. Please follow me on Instagram, and I will always promote things I'm doing, like these conventions. I'll always say where I'm going to be, and if I'm doing a workshop and that sort of thing. So, I would strongly advise someone who doesn't really have the chops to take some classes like that and to do that sort of thing. I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, I started like a year ago when I did it, when I interviewed Steve Bloom, because I'm doing that Boombox Studios now.
Yeah. No, Steve does a lot of them too. I know he does. Of course, now he's in Hawaii twiddling his thumbs, so he's got all kinds of time, so he can do whatever the hell he wants. But he's a great guy, Steve. And he's a guy, interestingly enough, he's really had no training at all. So he's just a natural talent. And there are people that are natural talents. There's a lot of big stars that have never really studied or had acting lessons. And that's not to say that that's necessarily the way to go, but I think it's helpful for everyone to have some training and some,
They say improv too.
Huh?
Improv also.
Improv's helpful, and to have some, I always liken a lot of this stuff more to stage acting than to film acting, because it's a little bigger than life. A lot of this stuff, particularly the games, they're just a little bigger than life. It's not like film acting that's very natural and very real. And sometimes they want that kind of performance, so you have to be able to do that as well. Some actors can't do that. Some actors can do the natural but can't do the over-the-top stuff, and some actors can do only the over-the-top stuff and can't do the natural stuff. So I think the more versatile you are, the more sellable you'll be, and the more you'll work, you know, which is kind of the way. So I think you just try to be more versatile. I was trained in the stage originally, and then I did a lot of film acting. So I've got kind of both of those worlds, and a lot of, you know, voice acting, obviously. So I think, you know, anything you can do to make yourself a good actor, a better actor, is what you need to do. Yeah. Yes.
You mentioned voice acting in Call of Duty. Do you play any of the games you voice act in, or watch any of the shows that you watch that you've acted in casually? And if so, is it weird? Does it ruin the show for you?
No. I'm a terrible gamer. I suck at it. I'm really bad at it. I did a thing called War for Cybertron, and I played Skywarp in that. And the studio had a big rap party at the end of the game, and they had these giant screens, and they had controllers, and I was playing my character, which was kind of fun. I don't know if you guys know that game or not, but in that game you get an assignment. You're in a cave, and you get an assignment, and you got to go out of the cave and do your assignment. Well, it took me like an hour and a half just to get out of the cave. So, you know, I said, oh my God, I suck at this thing. So, you know, I'm not a great gamer, to tell you the truth. I'm a much better actor than I'm a gamer.
What's funny is that I've talked to a few other Overwatch voice actors as well, and they said the same thing.
Yeah.
It's becoming a common theme at this point.
Yeah. Well, I honestly don't have a lot of time to play games too. I know I see these guys, they've got these rooms with like stacks of these games, and each game is like 400 hours of playtime, and I'm going, oh my God, what do you have time to do anything else? It's crazy, but thank God for those guys. They keep us in business, so, you know, it's a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm not very good at it. My idea of playing a game is the old Nintendo GoldenEye game. So, you know, that's the skill set that I have as far as being a gamer. You know. I like the old arcade games. You know, listen, I'm old school. I like pinball machines and that kind of stuff. That's kind of fun for me. But yeah, I'm just, some of these new games are just they're so tough. You know, they're really tough, and you got to really know what you're doing. You know, so we had. It was kind of embarrassing. They had me at one convention, and they had some guy was like the champion, and, you know, and they had him play against me, and as Raiden in Mortal Kombat. Oh my God, he just destroyed me. And it was like embarrassing. I'm going, oh, I'm Raiden. Oh God, I look terrible. It was terrible. So yeah, I'm not great at the games. Yes.
What was the process like acquiring work and getting roles when you were newer to the industry, and what does it look like now?
Let me make sure I understand the question. What was it like when I was first starting out?
Yeah, and then like
what is it like, the difference in what it is? Well, I think the real difference is technical. I think, you know, when I was first starting out, they didn't have beeps. I don't know if you guys know what beeps are. Beeps are, they beep you up to the line where the mouth starts to open. So they'll beep you, or you get these 3 beeps, and then the imaginary 4th beep, you start talking. So they didn't have that. So what you had to do is you had to look at the actual time code on the film and try to grab it as it happened. And it's a lot tougher than it is today. The other thing is they didn't have Pro Tools. Now with Pro Tools, they can move the line around, they can compress it, they can expand it, they can do all kinds of wonderful things with it. They didn't have that, so it had to be perfect, or they couldn't move on. So it was those 2 things, I think, have improved the business tremendously, and they made it a lot easier for people to do this work. The other thing is that makes it a little easier for me now is that I'm a lot more well known than I was when I was starting out. So you know, people know that if they're gonna hire me, what they're gonna get. And when you're starting out, people don't know you, and you have to kind of establish yourself and make a name for yourself and that sort of thing. And that's not always easy to do. As I said before, I've done over 1,200 roles, and I can count on one hand the times I've been cast without an audition. So that's kind of crazy. And one of those times was when I got cast as Ansem in Kingdom Hearts. Because the first Ansem was Billy Zane, if you guys remember, and then for whatever reason, he didn't come back. So what happened was the Japanese clients asked Disney, who does the voice of Bateau? Because the guy who does Ansem in Japan does the voice of Bateau in Ghost in the Shell. So they said Richard Epcar does the voice of Bateau in Ghost in the Shell. So they basically just cast me and did it, which was great. And I'll tell you a quick funny story about that. So I go in for Kingdom Hearts 2 as Ansem. And I go in the booth, and they're recording me, and I do one line, and there's 6 Japanese producers in the booth, and there's 6 Disney producers in the booth. And every time I do a line, the engineer comes on the talkback and says, just a minute, and then they all talk amongst themselves for like 5 minutes and come back and say, can you do that a little faster? So I do it a little faster, and then the engineer comes back on and says, just a minute, and they're talking amongst themselves for 5 minutes, and they come back and say, can you do that a little slower? So this went on all day long, and I was ready to jump off a cliff. And so finally there was a break, and I grabbed the engineer. I said, how did Christopher Lee put up with this? He said, they did it to him once, and he said, all right, I'm going to tell you how we're going to do this. I'm going to read this script from the top to the bottom, and then I'm going home. And I thought, how cool is that? It was Christopher Lee, after all. You know, it was kind of funny. And then I had seen a documentary on him a week after that with, it was, what's his name, who did Lord of the Rings? What's his name?
Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson, and I think it was Spielberg. I want to say Spielberg. They were talking about Christopher Lee. They go, we love Christopher Lee, but he'll only do like 1 or 2 takes, and then he'll go back to his trailer. So I had to laugh because, you know, the same thing happened in this game. But, you know, now I've done like 8 of them, so they leave me alone. But, you know, I was coming in for the first time. It was kind of funny the way they were doing that. That was unusual. But that, as I said, that was like one of the one times that they cast me without an audition. So even at this stage of my career, I still have to audition for everything. It's kind of crazy. But, yes.
What does a typical audition look like for voice acting?
Well, usually you'll get an audition from your agent, and your agent will send you the sides of the script. They'll just give you a little piece of the script, and you do that piece, and then you send it back to them, and then the casting directors and directors and producers, they listen to all this stuff. And I mean, that's another difference between what happened before and what happens now. When I was starting out, you'd get maybe 20 to 30 people for a role, maybe. Now it's like 500 to 2,000 people a role, because everybody who's got a booth all over the world is now auditioning for the same stuff. So it's made it really insane, to be honest with you. And I'm just really grateful I got in early, and now I have a name, thank God. But yeah, it's tough. It's really tough for the people trying to start out now. It's not impossible. You can do it. And you know, I know a lot of people have come out from other places and have done very, very well. So I wouldn't want to, you know, deter anyone from doing that. But it's a very competitive business. It really is. My wife just walked in.
Oh, hello.
Who's minding the store, honey? You put "Gone Fishing" sign up?
Actually,
Do you have this after me?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yes.
More or less.
So how does it feel to be back in Bleach after such a long break?
It feels great. I was thrilled to be back. And once again, as I said, there's not a lot of loyalty in this business, so you never know if you're going to be back or not, you know. So I'm always very pleased and happy when they bring me back. They also brought Ellen back. She was in the original Bleach as well, so they brought us, the 2 of us, back. And so we're both very happy to be back in the show.
I know the fans are too.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. You know, I think that the companies, if they would realize that the fans, you know, really enjoy that continuity, they would continue doing that. But what happens is you get somebody in a position of power and they go, I want to do my own cast, and then they just throw everybody away and they try to do their own cast, and they usually sucks. But not that I'm bitter or anything. Yes.
What is your favorite anime to watch, whether you're in it or not?
My favorite anime? God, I don't know. I do love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I really do. I work on a lot of these shows, and I don't really have the time to watch them. But there was something so interesting about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, that the way they would paint the characters into a corner every episode, and you're going, how are they going to get out of this? It's impossible. And they would somehow get out of it every show. And I just thought, that's just such great writing. It really is. It's just great writing. And I loved it. I loved all the crazy, they just had the thing on his arm, and he was battling the thing. It was disgusting. And some of that stuff made you want to vomit, but it was, it was really engaging, and that was one of the few shows that I actually watched all the way through. Now, and of course, Lupin the Third, I know that show inside and out because I write it, direct it, act in it. So that's something that's very near and dear to my heart, and I love that show as well. I love those characters. Yeah.
One of my favorite episodes with him in Stardust Crusaders was when he was with Outlaw battling episode 30 and 31. That's Facet's Mariah.
Was that when they were magnetized?
Yeah, they were
Yes.
magnetized together, and then
That was hilarious.
See how our faces are stuck together as opposed to the other way around? Well, it's more than likely a sign that my feet and your head should repel each other. Ah! Those little brats came back and brought that
That was a hilarious episode, and it was brilliant. It was just brilliant. I love that episode. It was really funny. Very
How's
funny.
the invisible baby?
The what, the baby? The invisible baby? Oh my God. How do you clean an invisible baby?
I think you
I
can
don't know, that makes it,
No, that was the one when the next series, right? That was Diamond is Unbreakable. So yeah, that's where you were. You met.
I was a
Billy-
doddering old fool.
Yes, and then his son was played by Billy Kometz.
Yes.
Yes, that was Josuke Higashikita. So and you haven't worked with him before?
With Billy?
Billy
or-
Billy Kometz.
Yes. I don't think I have worked with Billy. As we mentioned earlier, it was really sad what happened to him. I know he was a very talented young guy, and he passed away so young. It was very sad, and it was horrible. But I didn't really know him. I know we probably worked in some of the same shows together at some point, but I didn't really get a chance to work with him in person. But I've always heard really nice things about him, and I was very sorry to hear about his passing. And it's sad. There's a lot of us are going by the wayside these days. It's kind of sad. But yeah, yes.
How has COVID-19 changed voice acting for you? COVID-19, sorry.
How's conventions changed?
COVID-19.
Oh, COVID. I thought
Yeah.
you said how did conventions change? We love conventions, and we get to see the fans, and they generally know more about this stuff than we do, so that's great. COVID was weird, to say the least, and it was the end of conventions for a couple of years, and my wife was brilliant, and she said, we're getting a booth. So we got a booth, and we put a booth in our house, and we continued working, we continued directing. She was directing a bunch of stuff for Netflix and Disney and at the house, and I was directing some stuff, and I also was voicing a lot of stuff, and she was voicing stuff. So we continued working right through COVID, so it didn't affect us as much as I know a lot of people lost their jobs and were laid off and all that stuff, which is terrible. But, I just think about all these people that told me, don't become an actor, it's unsteady and you never know, and all that. In the meantime, we're the only ones working and everyone else is out of jobs. So, you never know. That's why you can't listen to anybody. You got to kind of follow your heart and do what you want to do. And, You know, I feel like we all have one shot at this deal, and we should do something that we enjoy and makes us happy, because, you know, there's people that go into lines of business that are horrible and they hate it, and they're miserable, but they think they're gonna do it to make a living. And some of those people were laid off when the economy went bad. They were laid off, and, you know, you might as well do something you enjoy, because at least you'll have fun doing it. And I think you should have fun in your life and enjoy your life, you know. Life's too short. You gotta enjoy it. Yes.
We saw a recent YouTube interview of you by Leveling Up Banks with this pro wrestler, Benjamin Banks.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned how you started out by moving out to Hollywood. Was that scary? Did you have a plan? Can I quit my job and do that?
Well, I knew that I was going to be an actor, so, I mean, you have to make that decision. Was it scary? Yeah, I literally had $300 in my pocket. I sold my drum set and got $300, and that's what I had in my pocket when I came to Los Angeles. So was it scary? Yes. Could you do that today? I don't think so. I don't think so, unless you have to put another 0 or 2 behind that $300. But you know, thankfully it worked out. And honestly, and I'm very cautious to say this, but honestly, the day I said I'm not gonna do anything else except for act is when my career started happening. And there's so many actors in LA that work as waiters and do other jobs. And listen, everybody's gotta pay the bills. But it was that leap of faith for me that made it so that I could do this professionally and not have to do anything else and not look back. And my wife getting me into this business, this crazy business, I have to blame her for getting me into the voice business. But yeah, if those things hadn't happened, I you know, who knows what the hell would have happened. But when I made that decision to just not do any of those other jobs and I'm just gonna do this, sink or swim, and it worked. So I can't advise you to do that because it worked for me. I don't know if it'll work for you, you know what I mean? But I think when you make that determination in your mind that that's what you're gonna do, I think that, you know, things open up for you, you know. But that's what happened for me. So you know, once again, I can't advise anybody to do that because they may be, you know, living in a tent down by the river. So, you know, so I don't know.
That's why we have YouTube.
So, any other questions? Yes.
Do you have any opinions on celebrity voice actors kind of taking over in the voice acting business for these like new
bastards.
video animation movies that already have like traditional voice actors? And like, how would you feel if like if a celebrity took over your voice acting roles in like Mortal Kombat or
They better not. You know, it happens, and you know, a lot of producers want marquee names on these things, which is honestly, it's kind of ridiculous because particularly like in, you know, some of these animated movies that are for kids, it's like the kids don't know who these people are, or do they care? You know, so I think you get a good actor who does that character, that does the part. It doesn't matter that it's a big movie star who's doing it. I don't have a problem with them doing it as long as they do a good job. Some of them are not so great, quite frankly. Like we were talking about earlier, this is not really their forte. But if somebody can come in and do a good job, why not? You know, I mean, Robin Williams was a phenomenal actor, voice actor. He did it all. And there's a few people like that are just incredible and really good at what they do. You know, I just think it's weird. If you're an established, like the Mario Brothers thing, for example, you know, if you're an established voice of that character, I think the fans want to hear that voice. And it's like, what was the other thing that just happened? Oh, with the Transformers. I mean, they wanted to replace Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime. It's like, no, he is Optimus Prime. Don't do that. That sucks. So I I think the fans really appreciate that, and they put him through hell to get that part. They made him, and Michael Bay was going, I don't want a voice actor, I want a real actor. Well, we are real actors, we are real actors. And honestly, he, as far as I'm concerned, he was the best thing in those movies. So it's funny, Ellen and I did a convention with Peter Cullen in SAC Anime, I think it was. And I said to him, I'm so glad that they cast you in that movie. He said, you're glad. It's like, but that's the thing, they could have gotten some, let's have Brad Pitt do Optimus Prime. Or, it's like, what? Because he's a big star, and that's the other thing that drives me nuts. It's like, they don't even care if they're even in the ballpark for it's like Chris Pratt as Mario. I'm sorry, what the hell were they thinking? But it's like he's got a marquee value on his name, so they put him in there. And it's like, I don't mind if you put the guy in there, but at least have them, be the character, So anyway, I don't know. It kind of sucks, but what are you gonna do? It's show business, So, yes.
What would you consider your greatest achievement?
My greatest achievement was marrying my wife and having 2 beautiful children.
Good answer.
The correct answer.
That
It's
was
the
my
correct
greatest
answer.
achievement.
That was the right answer.
So yeah, it's been great. We've been very, very fortunate, and we live a really good life, and we travel all over the world, and it's been wonderful. So I can't complain. We're very, very fortunate and lucky. So that's a good thing.
Awesome.
Thank you. Anything else, or yes?
One question. Yes. I just heard that you did some ADR directing with the Deadpool movies.
I actually did the voices in them. I
You did
did a
voices?
lot of the, getting back to celebrities, they kind of suck at this stuff. So the celebrities couldn't do the efforts, the efforts when you're fighting, you get hit, that kind of stuff. They couldn't do that stuff. So they brought me in to do the stuff for them. So I did, the first one I was Colossus. I did all the efforts for them. And then the other one I was Juggernaut. I did all the efforts and reactions for him. So I do a lot of that stuff. I did Planet of the Apes. I did the big giant ape in that movie. I did got a bunch of them. What was it's just too many things to remember. I've done a lot of these big main movies where I've gone in and done voice work on them, and it's fun. As a matter of fact, at the end of Tar, if you guys have seen Tar, that's my voice at the end of the Tars. They took a piece of my dialogue from Monster Hunter, where I played the Admiral, and they put that in the movie. So yeah, I do a lot of that kind of stuff.
I'll just have a little more question. Maybe like a lightning round.
Okay, sure. Let's
Yes
do
or
a
no
lightning
or something.
round.
Okay. Yeah. What are we gonna do?
All right, you
Do I
got
win
it.
a car at the
Oh
end?
crap! You do it so I can
Uh-oh.
turn it back to it.
Okay.
All right, I'll get back. All right, here we go. Okay, so who deserves a spin-off anime series or game? Raiden, Jigen, or Akuma?
Ooh, that's rough. Well, I'd say Raiden.
And then the last one, best Joker, Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, Jared Leto, Joaquin Phoenix, Heath Ledger, Mark Hamill, or you, Richard Epcar?
Let me think about this for a second. Richard Epcar.
Should Joseph Joestar get a cooler stand like Star Platinum,
Okay.
or is
The thing that broke my heart about that whole thing was, I'm doing Lupin the Third now for 20, 30 years now. And they stay the same age, which I love. They're just the same. In this JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, every season they age 30 years. It's like, why? Why are they doing that? Because the first one I did, I loved Joseph Joestar. He was such a great character. He was like so full of life, and just he would just tackle anything, and then the next episode he's a doddering old fool, drooling, and I just didn't understand it. It was sad to me to play him so diminished, You know, this it's like playing Superman and then having him just be this like, you know, doddering old guy in the corner. You know, I just hated it. I didn't like doing that.
But you can still find the baby.
Yeah, with the invisible baby.
Having no context for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure makes this very interesting.
It's great. You haven't seen it? You've never seen
No,
it?
I
You should
watched.
watch it. It's really
I
great.
watched probably the first few episodes, and then I got caught up in other things.
Yeah.
But
It's-
yes,
it's
Invisible
really
Baby sounds great.
Particularly that one episode when they get stuck together. Oh my God, that is one of the funniest things I've ever seen anywhere in anime, but in anything I've ever seen. It's just hilarious. All right, was that the lightning round? That was it?
Yes.
All right,
Oh, and then the last one was Charles Martinet or Chris Pratt for Mario. That's the last one.
Charles.
There you go.
Nice.
Anyway, thank you guys very much. I hope I answered your questions.
Thank
Take
you so
care.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please follow me on Instagram.
Already
okay?
did.
All right, awesome. For a real treat, so get Ellen Stern in here.